We've been comprehensively covering the aftermath of the story regarding immigration and customs enforcement for you, trying to get all angles here. And one of the angles that we've not fully explored would be hearing from some of our metro city councilors. Obviously, we've heard from Courtney Johnston and a couple of others, but we wanted to get as many voices in on this subject as possible. And one of those voices is Metro City Councilor David Benton. He joins us. He represents the 28th district in the city, and he joins us on the Murphy Show hotline to talk about the resultant activity in the aftermath of the Tennessee Highway Patrol and the ICE raids. Councilor, thank you for being on with us. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's obviously our pleasure. You participated in the Memorial Day press conference at the state capitol. Talk to us about that participation and why you felt so important that the citizens of Davidson County heard from some of their city councilors with this matter.
Right. Well, I think the noise level is pretty high for those that are against ICE. And I thought we needed a little more balance in the story because there's a lot more to that story than just kind of stomping your foot and saying we're not going to have it. And let me just say this before we get too far. I support legal immigration 100%. And I think most all of us do. In fact, I think the great majority of us that are here, that's the way we got here. And so it's almost foolish to not support immigration. So, let's not get that all twisted up. I love everybody, full stop. And I judge people based on their behavior, and that's it. And but at the same time, we've got to uphold the law. And I think it's really cruel for us as leaders, say myself or the mayor or other leaders, including the ones at the state. I think it's cruel to lead an illegal alien along to believe that we can shield them from federal ICE enforcement. That's just not realistic. And I really hate that that's the impression that we're giving off right now. And I think that's wrong of us. In fact, I heard Wally Dietz at a special call meeting for the Public Health and Safety Committee say that we do not have the authority to stop ICE enforcement. And that couldn't be more true. We should be giving a model behavior of lawful behavior. And we got to set the example. And I just don't think mocking law enforcement and this is what criminals and cartels and mob bosses do. They mock the law enforcement that's out there trying to do their job and play cat and mouse with them. It's not very respectful. And of course, they've got supremacy authority over us at the federal level, and then the state, they're coming in with their own immigration stuff, and they have preemptive authority over us. And this is not a really good relationship to be developing with the state and federal government, especially when they hold a big purse string. And we have grants and other monies that we need desperately to operate on. Taxpayers are going to have to pull it out of their pocket, go without, or get a little more friendly and try to comply. If they can pull funding just for us rebelling against this stuff. Mm-hmm. We've seen that with DEI. We're seeing it now with ICE. We don't need to go running around and making everybody mad. Of course, then we have this concern. We recently joined as a partnership with the Belonging Fund with other nonprofits. And there's become a little bit of a question as to whether they can distinguish themselves between an immigrant versus what ICE is actually after right now, which is an illegal alien. And there's a difference. Let's clear that up. It's a definition thing. We play games with the definition. And the definition is if you evade and avoid detection at the border, you don't go through a port, you have taken on, you're in violation of 1324, no, 1325 U.S. Code. That's Title 8. That was passed in 1952, and that was bipartisan. And the reason they passed that one, they had concerns over communism and national security. And, of course, that hasn't changed. And the odd part is the 1324 part of the code, that's from 1996. And that was Chuck Schumer and, of all people, Joe Biden. But that was also bipartisan. Everyone voted for that. Not 100%, I'm sure. But it was a notable bipartisan bill. And that's the one that brings you and me, the citizens nonprofits and other people, including the legal and illegal immigrant community, liable for their behavior. And this is the hard part right here. If you enable, aid, abet, encourage, that's guilty of, and that's to encourage them to remain in the United States. You're guilty of a federal law. And I think we've seen one judge, it was, up north that was arrested on that. Now, I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be, but she's in bad shape. That's not a good spot to be in.
Councilor David Benton is with us with the Metro Nashville City Council. Your voice is important in this. And one of the reasons I thought it's so important to have you on today, you don't represent a district that is on the other side of the county from where these types of activities went on. You're adjacent to Jenny Welch. You're adjacent to Sandra Sepulveda, right? So, I mean, you're representing some of the same folks that they claim to represent when they're pushing back against legal law enforcement. And I appreciate this different perspective and this different voice. What are your constituents telling you, Councilor, when you speak to them? Well,
this is the wild part. I have had multiple phone calls, and I was a little surprised, actually, because I just didn't know they had such an understanding of legal immigrants, and these happen to be Hispanic, and they thanked me for taking a stand. And the way they explained it was they're frustrated that some people are cheating the line, jumping the line, and not going through the right channels the way they did. And they don't appreciate that. Yeah, and of course, I'm getting pushback too. And oddly enough, feels a little bit more politically charged on a lot of that. Mm-hmm. Although there's some scared people. Let's be honest. And it bothers me. It hurts me. I love the Hispanic community. They're friends.
I feel bad. I mean, can I just say, and I don't mean to jump in on your answer, but I feel bad. No. I feel bad for many of them. I feel bad that they came the wrong way and they've laid low for a long time. And sadly, they were convinced by people that if they just laid low long enough that, all would be forgiven and everything would be okay. And that's not the way that it works. And I feel bad that they got duped by people in that way. And I know that they're scared about it and we need to deal with it. We need to figure it out.
Right. And that's exactly what I meant when I said I think it's cruel. Because I think it's very cruel that so many were just let in, because that ultimately something was probably going to happen, some pushback somewhere. And then when you look at the law and you start applying the law, they're the ones that are stuck in the middle. And there's not a lot we can do unless we break the law in order to help them. So I just think it's really cruel to give them this false sense that you can do something to prevent them facing the law. Now, here's the good news for them. It's not full application of the law, but I don't think a lot of people are going to squeal about it. ICE is not chasing down the people whose visas have expired. But those are coming under a little bit different category when, say, you had a visa that expired or you came in legally, you started off correctly, and then something went haywire with maybe you missed a date for something. I wouldn't do that. That's a bad idea. It's a very risky idea. But that is a little bit different category, usually a little more on the civil side. But just subverting the whole system and coming in illegally, that one is a criminal activity. And it's a little more serious. And I hate it. It's sad.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, no, you go ahead.
I'm curious your thoughts on the mayor. And if you've heard as a city councilor from the mayor directly since all of this has shaken out, since you appeared at the press conference, because the mayor has made a couple of interesting points in his statements, and he's done a couple of interesting things. The executive order, where he kind of doubled it down on an existing executive order and demanded that information about federal movement within the county get turned over to his office quickly. And then we see where some of this information appears on official Metro websites, doxing essentially these agents in a way that could potentially put them in harm's way. I'm curious your thoughts on that and what we need to do to explore whether or not Mayor Freddie O'Connell has crossed the line in terms of Title 8 U.S. Code 1324.
Right. Well, I like Freddie, the man. I like the guy. But I just don't agree with him on this stuff. I just don't. And the biggest part is, once again, the same with everyone else. I can't violate 1324. I can't do that. And I don't want to give the impression that I can. But it does bother me when we take this kind of action. Look, this really boils down to a couple of things. What we're doing by doing that is we're really making the people who can really help our city with a lot of money and grants, which we desperately need, and by destroying the relationship with the state and the federal government. And we're really making them mad doing this. We really are. And it's hard to restore that. I don't know that he could do it at this point. I really don't. He's really upset him. And that's going to cost the city. And I think that may be a bigger part of this. I mean, it's obviously we need to do the right thing, but I think it may have a bigger impact on us than just did I get away with breaking the law or not. And so it's not only about did you break the law, it's also about did you destroy a relationship that's going to hurt the city financially. And I'm going to tell you, I'm concerned about another thing. If we come up with it and they discover that there is some wrong activity going on. In other words, maybe some support to illegal aliens, not just good old immigrants trying to find their way in their path to citizenship. Mm-hmm. So let's say that there's some assistance going on. With any of these funds, we are a party to those funds when we are partners, which that becomes a little bit different relationship. And by doing that, we may be drug into a 1324 violation. Plus, the other part to that is if we could separate ourselves from that might help. But we're there now. But I'm pretty sure, and I would like it, in all fairness, I need to have that cleared so we can know whether we can support everything fully moving forward. Without that, we don't know if we are in violation. And this could end up getting us in deep trouble. In addition to, this could go as far as racketeering with a RICO Act if there's money moved around to avoid being detected. This could get really serious really fast.
Do you think, based on your knowledge of the Belonging Fund, do we need more information about how this money has moved around and exactly where it's going to?
Well, that's the whole idea. I was concerned and wanted them audited so we can feel more comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Because there are questions, and there's enough questions. We know there were some federal funds that were approved for one or two of these nonprofits. And by doing that, if they're moving that back around in any way through each other or individually with us as a partner now, that's some people call it money laundering, and that's trouble.
What is in the minute or two that we have left, David, what are next steps for you as a counselor, and do you have other fellow Metro counselors in support of your actions here?
I haven't talked to many of my colleagues yet. I think plenty of them are probably scared to death to say anything at this point. Mm-hmm. And then there's a group that's just, always going to be full steam ahead, just follow along with the mayor. But I want to leave this with you, if you could. We've been ranked in the top 20 in violent crime for a while now. In 2021, we were 16th. 2023, we were 15th. 2025, we were 14th. That's too high. That's not a rank that you're to be proud of. And that's a concern when it comes to the fact that we need to get safety measures and the police fully funded, because they're underfunded to the point where they're 20 to 30 calls behind. And not only that means there's not enough of them. And secondly, we're not giving them the tools like the LPRs. And here's what I just want to clarify this. Mayor Cooper signed that into law August of 2023. The guidelines were passed in 2022, which was the big concern, to make sure we use them responsibly. And then that was the result of a 24-14 vote. They're fully passed, fully signed into law. Now just hold that. And then if innocent taxpayers and our many, many visitors rely on us for safety and expect that we're going to give it, if the LPR is passed and we're signed into law August of 2023, along with the policy guidelines, if the police are underfunded, if the Vanderbilt poll confirmed 83% of the people want LPRs, if we are ranked consistently the top 20 most violent crimes, 14th currently, what is our legal liability for any injuries or deaths from violent illegals and violent legals due to neglect?
It's a great question. It's a great question. It's an open question, and let's continue the conversation next time, Counselor, because I want to talk to you about LPRs. I'm on this subject. I'm a dog on a bone on it, and I'm not going to let it go, and I know that you won't either. Thank you for spending some time with us explaining your position on this. Thank you for your representation for District 28, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you.
Yes.